Welcome back to the Enfield Talking newspaper. Now we return to local news with Janet.
Any form of family rivalry will go completely out of the window when a mother and daughter team line up at the start of the London Marathon this month. Julie and Kate Grogan of Churchfield Path, Cheshunt, will be coaching each other through the race on April the 13th in a bid to raise funds for the Cardiomyopathy Association. The heart condition that affects 1 in 500 in the UK has had a serious impact on the Grogan family. In 2012, Katie lost her grandmother Sheila to the disease, and in 2009, her father and Julie's husband Stephen was also diagnosed with the condition. The genetic nature of cardiomyopathy means that Katie and her older sister Charlotte have to visit the hospital for regular checkups. Cardiomyopathy is a big thing in my family, so we really wanted to do something to help, said hairdresser Katie. Julie, 47, who is a professional aerobics instructor, said, "The diagnosis has changed our lives so much. We have been given excellent support by the association throughout. I must say as well, doing a marathon has always been on my bucket list." The pair started training just before Christmas and have been increasing their mileage ever since. "We haven't been able to run with each other too much due to Katie working full-time," said Julie, "but we've supported each other throughout and it's definitely made us closer." With their longest run so far being only 19 miles, Julie admits the 26.2-mile route will be a step into the unknown. "The final 7 miles are going to be grueling, but I'm hoping the crowd will pull me through." "So, who is going to win?" "I think Katie might beat me, to be honest," said Julie. "After all, she does have a couple of years on me. But in all honesty, we have made a pact to go as far as we can with one another, and hopefully we'll be able to cross that line in the time nearly 6 hours.
A man jailed for his part in a botched bomb plot on London in July 2005 has had his appeal bid delayed. Manfo Asiudu was jailed for his part in the 21/7 terror plot on the capital after pleading guilty at the end of his trial. However, the 40-year-old is now appealing against his conviction, which saw him jailed for 33 years in 2007 after expert evidence used in the trial has been called into question. Applying for leave to appeal, counsel acting on behalf of Asiudu presented a case in front of Sir Brian Levison at the Royal Courts of Justice, calling on prosecutors to disclose specific notes used by explosives expert Dr. Stuart Black in the original trial. According to Stephen Camlish QC, the doctor's original findings had in fact been called into question by scientists in the Forensic Explosives Laboratory before the trial. Mr. Camlish told the court that Dr. Black had admitted his findings were wrong and had agreed to conduct further tests in the molecular makeup of the flour and hydrogen peroxide mix that the 4 plotters had in their rucksacks. "He read his own data wrong," said Mr. Camlish. He said that although Dr. Black admitted the mistake to fellow scientists at meetings with the FEL and said he would do further tests, he did not make his initial misreading of the data clear to the jury. What he should have said was, "It was pointed out to me that I had made a mistake," added Mr. Camlish. The defence alleged that Dr. Black knowingly perjured himself by presenting evidence he knew to be flawed as fact during the trial. The application for leave to appeal has been adjourned until all testing notes Dr. Black made at the time are given to prosecution counsel.
The owner of a children's nursery admits she is nervous ahead of a ruling to determine whether its children can continue to play in its garden. Kay Wildman of Chase Green Avenue runs Nursery on the Green in Chaseside, Enfield, and has fought to preserve the children's outdoor playtime at the nursery. This was put under threat in September 2013 when officials recommended an Enfield Borough Council's Planning Committee reject proposals to allow children to play outside because of neighbours' complaints about noise. However, Miss Wildman and the daycare centre received a late lifeline when the decision was adjourned for 6 months. But even with a recommendation to approve proposals to allow the children outside for 90 minutes in the morning and 90 minutes in the afternoon, Miss Wildman says she has her reservations. She said, "We have tried to make contact with all the residents surrounding the nursery and our local councillors to help come to an agreement." The nursery has recently received an outstanding grade from Ofsted and is one of 2 nurseries selected for Nursery of South England by the National Day Nursery Association. The Enfield Council Planning Committee will meet on Monday, April the 7th, to determine the outcome.
An Enfield supermarket is losing money after a new layout made it easier for shoplifters. The cooperative food store in Lancaster Road, Enfield, reopened in November after a complete refurbishment following a rat infestation, but the revamp caused a new problem. Community Action Partnership in Enfield, or CAPE, was told by police that the store has lost £14,000 due to shoplifters because of the new layout, which has prevented staff from being able to see along the aisles. Meat has been frequently stolen as it sits closest to the entrance of the new shop. CAPE, along with residents of Chase Ward, requested local police make the store one of its 3 priorities in the area. Annette Dreblow, chairman of Chase Ward CAPE, said it would be ridiculous for the co-op not to take police advice and employ a security guard. She said, "If the co-op is facing the prospect of losing £40,000 a year from shoplifters, it seems ridiculous not to take the steps to combat it along the lines the police have suggested. It's not surprising that members of our local crime panel, CAPE, have taken the view that if the co-op won't help themselves, then police resources shouldn't be diverted away from tackling burglary and other serious crimes in the area." Chase Ward councillor Tom Waterhouse believes the store must now take on board the advice given to them by the police. He said, "Fighting crime is a community effort. We need residents to report it, the police to act upon it, and businesses to take reasonable steps to protect themselves. The co-op needs to pull its finger out, take the advice of the police and make sure it's doing its bit. We want to attract more businesses to Lancaster Road and create new jobs, and this will be harder if the area is being affected by crime." A spokesman for the co-op food said it's aware of the issue at the store and is looking at changing the store layout as a way of combating the issue. He said, "We're aware that shoplifting is an issue at our store in Lancaster Road, and the store manager and his team are working very closely with local police and the wider business to address this." He added, "As well as making considerable improvements to the CCTV monitoring of the store, we are looking at proposals to change the store layout, as well as a number of other measures to help deter criminals. We take this issue very seriously indeed, and anyone caught shoplifting from this store or any of our other stores will be prosecuted."
The oldest practising optometrist in the country is only partly retiring after decades of service to the community of Enfield. Arthur Baker, 89, who has proudly run AA Baker Optometrists in Bowes Road, Palmers Green since 1977, has decided not to renew his eye testing licence. He said he will still be around to help out at the spectacle repairs and other work at the practice, but he is leaving it in the capable hands of his son David. The veteran optician, whose licence expired recently, will now get to spend more time with his wife Elsie, who he married in 1952. "I think I've had a good run of it," he said, "but my wife has poor vision and she needs me to ferry her about on shopping trips. I'm going to spend more time with her from now on. I'm very happy that David is taking over the business. My other 2 sons weren't interested. They went on to do other things." Born in Shoreditch in 1924, Mr. Baker served in the RAF during World War II and was stationed in India after the war until he returned to London in 1947. He studied optometry at the Northampton Polytechnic, nowadays City University, in central London during the 1950s, and also qualified as a primary school teacher. He started out as an optometrist at the house practice of one of his university professors in Kenmere Gardens, Palmer's Green, in 1956, working in the evenings while being employed full-time as a primary school teacher. He retired from teaching in 1977 and opened his Bowes Road practice. Asked why he's been working for such a long time and kept such good health, Mr. Baker said, "Simply by working and being active in the community. I've always enjoyed my work very much." Mr. Baker still keeps his patient files on paper cards, and his database has not been computerised. Asked whether his profession has changed, he added, "It has become too commercial. We don't do free tests or 2-for-1s, and we work strictly on recommendation. We're a real family business, and we treat all our patients like friends."
Development bosses have been quizzed by councillors on what they achieved for the borough by spending 3 days at a conference on the French Riviera. A delegation from Enfield Council, including Cabinet Member for Regeneration Del Goddard, travelled to the MIPIM conference in the luxury resort of Cannes in the south of France last month on a trip that was paid for by publishing company 3 Fox International. Mr. Goddard was put on the spot by Conservative Deputy Leader Joanne Lebin in a question submitted before full council meeting at Enfield Civic Centre in Silver Street. She asked the Regeneration Czar to spell out what outcomes, if any, were achieved by his attendance at the conference in Cannes. Mr. Goddard insisted that the conference was not about coming away with locked-down deals, but about very substantial networking in an informal setting. He said that it raises the profile of Enfield, as well as keeping the delegates up to date on current issues in the field of development and regeneration. Mr. Goddard added, "It establishes contact with a range of potential investors at a senior level through pre-arranged and informal meetings, which," he said, "are then followed up in Enfield."
Spurred on by the memory of her brother, an Enfield woman will be taking on the London Marathon in aid of a brain charity. Linda Priddle of Kenilworth Road, Enfield, lost her brother, Stuart Rainbow, to a brain tumour in December 2013 after he was diagnosed a year earlier. Mrs. Priddle has spoken about the challenges she has faced since losing her brother. She said, "I decided I was going to run the marathon last year, but was not successful on the ballot. So I wrote to a number of charities asking for a spot. The National Brain Appeal offered me a place, which I was very grateful for. My brother has motivated me to do all the training runs in the train and cold when I did not feel like carrying on." A health and safety officer who lived in Enfield all his life, Stuart was described by his wife Sylvia as a healthy and happy person. She said, "He was lovely, one of the good guys, and always willing to help anyone out with anything. His work has dedicated an award in his name, which described the impact he had on a lot of people's lives." Mrs. Priddle, a member of Trent Park Running Club, will take on the 26.2 mile course on Sunday, April the 13th, and said that her brother will be with her every step of the way. She said, "I am coming towards to the end of my training, which has been tough as it's the first marathon I have done. My brother will be with me throughout the gruelling course, both in my heart and in my mind. It has been an emotional roller coaster." So far, Mrs. Priddle has raised more than £3,700 and is hoping to raise even more for the National Brain Appeal.
An NHS trust that's due to take over Chase Farm Hospital has made plans to sell part of the site. The Royal Free Hospital NHS Trust is due to take over the site in the Ridgeway, Enfield in July, with plans to redevelop health services on a smaller part of the land. A trust spokesman said, "The trust has met with Enfield Borough Council in its capacity as the local planning authority over potential future options for the Chase Farm Hospital site. These were very initial exploratory discussions and no proposals were presented. If the acquisition by the Royal Free of Barnet and Chase Farm Hospitals NHS Trust were to go ahead, the Royal Free intends to redevelop health services on a smaller part of the land so as to provide clinical services in contemporary and fit-for-purpose accommodation. This would be funded by the sale of land on the Chase Farm site that is surplus to requirements and from other external sources as necessary. In doing this, the newly formed Super Trust, covering Royal Free in Hampstead, Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane and Chase Farm Hospital, will hope to raise further funds from selling the land for housing. Labour's parliamentary candidate for the 2015 general election and former Enfield North MP Joan Ryan has called for the Trust to be more transparent. She said, "I want to see Royal Free be more open with its plans so that we can be sure that proceeds will be invested into Chase Farm. I am concerned that the residents of Enfield will lose their input in the future of health services." The Trust has already presented its business case, with its bid being assessed by a health service regulator Monitor. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois said, "The redundant land on Chase Farm Hospital should only be sold so long as the proceeds are reinvested in the hospital site and for primary care expansion. In addition, I am pressing the government to not just guarantee these funds, but also to add to them to meet our needs."
2 exchange students from Finland used their construction skills to restore an old cannon to its former glory. They were hosted by the College of Haringey, Enfield and North East London in February. The carpentry students spent 2 weeks working closely with Bruce Castle Museum historians to design and build a replacement carriage for the museum's cannon. They said it was an interesting experience to work with the college and help create a piece of work that has become part of English heritage. "We enjoyed ourselves. We had great hospitality at the college and we both really appreciate the visits that they arranged for us." The original idea of building a new carriage for the cannon was agreed when Paul Head, the college principal and chief executive, visited the Tottenham Museum and met curators there last year. Tom Smith, the college's head of construction, realised this would make an ideal project for the exchange students. The College School of Construction was delighted to be working on such a prestigious project, bringing life back to the cannon, which had been lying dormant for more than 15 years, covered in moss and rust. The museum's curator, Deborah Hedgecock, said, "We are so pleased to have the new carriage for the cannon. The students have made a few dreams come true." The project marks a great and important opportunity for work experience placement at Bruce Castle Museum for students from the college to contribute to caring for their local heritage here in Tottenham. The exchange students were also treated to tours of the V&A Design Museum, the London Eye and a Premier League football match.
A hospital has launched a new musical performance spot to entertain visitors, patients and staff. Staff at North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, performed at the launch of the musical area. Finbar Fornan, 39, a nurse from the hospital's Accident and Emergency Department, and Giuliano Dutra de Avis, an operating theatre assistant, performed the ukulele and guitar in the hospital's main building. The hospital is hoping to become a regular monthly session featuring music, poetry, fashion and drama. Mr. Dutra de Avis said, "It's a great idea and really great to be able to make people smile." Mr. Fornan from Hackney said, "It was fantastic to have this chance to perform. Hopefully it's brightened everyone's day. I was quite nervous, but the reaction has been great." Chief Executive Julie Lowe said, "It's fantastic that our staff are contributing something extra to hospital life and to the local community we serve. I am sure Arts in the Atrium is going to be popular with patients and staff alike."
Residents in Bounds Green are taking it upon themselves to stop crime in their area after a spate of burglaries. Following 17 break-ins in the past 2 weeks, residents held an urgent meeting in a bid to solve the issue. Laurie Gabay of Highworth Road has led the concerns and thinks that it's time for the residents to take it upon themselves to prevent crime. She said burglaries are happening all the time in the area, whether that be day or night, and we have very few police around to deal with the issue. Ideally, we would like to see more police doing rounds, but we are going to start doing rounds ourselves to keep a lookout. Ms Gabay claimed that Highworth, Warwick, Wakefield and Stanley roads have been the worst affected, with 7 burglaries taking place along her street alone. She added, "If we could get a few of us to walk up and down the road for 10 to 15 minutes looking for anything suspicious, we can stop crime for sure." Amazingly, after our meeting to discuss the issues, we saw a policeman outside and we all said to ourselves, "Oh my God, a real policeman." The Neighbourhood Watch Group has also suggested blocking nearby alleyways or using a grant from Enfield Residents Priority Fund to stem the issue.
Athletes, coaches and clubs have been recognised for their achievements in raising the bar of sporting activity in the borough. Enfield Council held its annual Celebrating Sports Award at Lee Valley High School in Ballsmore Lane, Enfield recently, and 27 youngsters from the borough's schools won accolades, while 8 were recognised for being young sports leaders. Adults from the borough were also rewarded for their contribution, with England women and Saracens rugby flanker Margaret Alfonsi being named Adult Sports Performer of the Year. The 30-year-old from Edmonton credits the sport with keeping her on the straight and narrow. "I needed a bit of discipline really, so rugby was the way forward," she said. "It changed my attitude to school and life and allowed me to perform." Margaret, nicknamed The Machine, also works for the Youth Sport Trust, mentoring young athletes. "A lot of athletes who have gone on to the Olympics have come from Enfield. To be recognised myself in the borough is quite special," she added. The Inclusive and Active Coach of the Year award went to Kathy Underwood-Redan, founder of Yoga for Mums, for her work in introducing yoga to different sectors of society. The 47-year-old, who also teaches children and adults with learning disabilities, as well as those with mental health problems, told the Advertiser that she's developing a yoga curriculum. "It's something I'd like to offer organisations and schools, showing how staff can utilise breathing exercises and positions to help calm down children when they're in a state of high emotion," she said. "Physical exercise is important, but what you get with yoga is self-awareness." Trent Park Running Club was named Volunteer of the Year for helping at the Mayor's annual charity fun run, and Paul Bosley won the Sports Coach and Instructor of the Year award for his martial arts work. Brimsdown Bowls Club in Mayfield Road picked up the Club of the Year award for its inclusive approach. Formed in 1993, it has members aged between 10 and 90 and teaches the game to pupils in the borough's schools. Coach and Secretary Anne-Marie Kett said, "It's a sport you can play at any age. It requires skill and a lot of thought. It's not as simple as it looks. It's great to be recognised by Enfield. Last year we were nominated as one of the top clubs in the whole of London." Joe Hall of Enfield and Haringey Athletics Club was named Active Sports Performer of the Year.
And finally, I think this is a bit of a joke. There's a notice that says, "Dogs must not stare at people eating." It was April the 1st. Dogs must not stare at people eating, according to a sign spotted in a park in Enfield. The poster instructing dogs in the strongest possible terms not to stare at people while they enjoy an alfresco lunch appeared on fencing outside the Roll-in-One Cafe in Beggars Hollow in Whitewebbs County Park on Monday. next to an authentic local authority sign. Written in large letters on Enfield Council paper, it prompted bemused dog walker Michael Hughes to contact the advertiser to ask, has Enfield Council finally lost the plot completely? The 74-year-old from Freezy Water was walking his own dog through the park when he spotted the official-looking sign and immediately snapped the evidence. It caused a bit of a laugh among us dog walkers because, like someone said, I'm not sure our dogs would like to follow the advice, but unfortunately they can't read. When contacted by the advertiser, the council denied all knowledge of the sign, insisting that it was somebody's idea of an early April Fool's joke. Cabinet member for the Environment Chris Bond revealed that there had never been a council edict banning dogs from looking at park users munching their lunches, and there were currently no plans to introduce one in the future. He told the advertiser, someone's clearly having a laugh, and this is obviously a hoax dreamed up by someone daft enough to get the date of April Fool's Day.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Janet, Sally, Colin, Keith and Robin on the controls, it's goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Dinder Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.